Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Sunday night Reading Light webinar. We are really, actually, I'll just wait until we get some attendees jumping in. Hopefully they'll jump in a minute.
Yeah, I did see a couple that were
Yeah,
online.
yeah.
Someone's
Oh,
in.
here we go.
Diane,
Yeah. Hi,
fantastic.
Diane.
Hi, Dan.
We'll just wait a little minute or two, Diane, and Brock, and then we'll get started. We'll probably get a few people joining in the next couple of minutes. But welcome, we're really pleased that you're back to listen to our session 3 of the Reading Light webinar, and we'll be starting really soon. So thanks for putting yourself out for tonight, and we hope you learned something. We won't be a minute. We'll be with you.
Yes. Good morning, good evening. I love it. I love the capability, the digital capability for us to be able to speak to all different time zones.
That's
Yeah,
right. We've got Fiona on with us now as well. Welcome, Fiona. We're just waiting
Welcome, Fiona.
for you, participants to join. Give us a minute or so, and then we'll launch into webinar 3 of the Reading Light series. Lovely to have you all here. My name's Melinda, by the way. And I've got Luke and Shane here as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Hey everyone.
Just give it another minute, and then we'll.
Nice and early over in the States, Diane, is it? You had breakfast yet? Or is it too early?
I'm assuming too early, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Adelaide in fact, Luke and Shane are all in Adelaide. Yeah, so we're in Adelaide in South Australia in Australia.
Too early, but
So,
yeah.
Surprisingly, we're all in Adelaide this week. So, we had Shane who was in London the first week, and then
2 weeks ago, yes.
Melinda and I were off gallivanting around the countryside last week. So we're all in our homes and here in Adelaide. So thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's 7:33, so I think we'll start with tonight's session. As I said, we'll be looking at Reading Light session 3. And thank you very much for putting some time in your week to join us for this session. As I said, my name's Melinda. I'm co-hosting with Shane and Luke. We've all found reading the Bible, over the last few years, really worthwhile, and we're really excited to share this webinar series with you. Just a little thing that I found this week. I've been doing the chronological reading of the Bible in the New Testament, and been reading about Elizabeth having a baby boy, and also Mary having a baby. Elizabeth was barren, and Mary was betrothed with Joseph, but was obviously Jesus was God's son. So what I really learnt in that reading was that nothing is impossible with God, and that's actually mentioned as well in one of the Gospels. So yeah, I think just remembering that and seeing those amazing events occur was just something that really hit me this week in my reading of the Bible. So as we mentioned last week, Reading Light is completely obligation free, and we're not asking for anything. We're just here to offer assistance and provide tools to help you understand the Bible for yourself. So actually, before I do that, I'm just going to do a poll for week 3. So I'll just set that up now, and we will get on with that. Just bear with me. Just move my.
And just to reiterate, the poll is optional. It's no obligation to do the poll. Sometimes what we do with the poll results is it helps us to understand better what we can help you with. But also, I think it's just good for us to know if we're being effective and helpful or otherwise. So again, no obligation to do the poll, but it is helpful for us if you're able to.
And please take your time. There's a bit of content in there.
Yes, we almost need some poll music, don't we?
No. Isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Silence is good occasionally.
That's right.
Shane, you could ask the questions and read out the options if you really wanted to.
No, that's all right.
Thank you. We've got some people participating, so that's amazing. Thank you. We appreciate that.
I must say, in last week's poll, we did have an option in there that was sort of like I missed last week's or haven't attended them yet, but I've done the catch up. So if that's the case and some of these options don't work for you, just pick whatever ones are applicable.
For sure. Okay, I think we may leave it at that for the poll. I'll just end the poll and share the results, and you can have a look at those quickly.
Yeah, good. Yeah, still figuring out. I think a lot of us are.
Yep.
Yeah, good.
Oh,
Good.
brilliant.
Excellent.
Okay, so I'll actually just pass over to Shane now. Thank you, Shane, and we look forward to your topic. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Well, what we'll do is we'll just go through and just remind ourselves where we are on the overall journey, the 5-week journey. So at week 3, last week we had a strategy focus of broadly. This week we're going to do our strategy focus is with intent, and that just means with a little bit more attention. We're going to sort of like pay with the tools we're going to learn in the topic 1, the concordance and lexicons and some of the other Bible app tools available to us. We can be a little bit more intent in our Bible reading and our Bible discovery. We had a look last week at Bible Echoes, where we have an introduction or topics introduced potentially in the Old Testament, but sometimes in the New Testament, and then later on we see echoes or those similar ideas and themes carrying through. This week, Luke is going to take us through Bookends, and then we can have some questions and hopefully we'll provide some answers, or we can have some discussion and group learnings. And then, obviously week 4 and week 5. So next week we've got a few fun things that Melinda will pick up at the end of our session to continue the journey and having a look at there. So that's the high level view. Today, as we're saying, we're going to have a look at concordances and lexicons. We're going to have a look at bookends. If you've got any questions, again, hopefully you're familiar now, but if this is the first time you've joined us, that's okay too. Feel free to just throw any of your questions or comments. We've had some really great and helpful comments coming through from your own experiences. We absolutely love that as well. This is collaborative. We don't have all the answers, but we've been doing this a little while and we're happy to share it with you. But also very happy to hear from you as well. So don't be shy. Any questions or any comments, throw them in the chat. Or if you want to have yourself unmuted, just put your hand up or throw it in the chat that you'd like to speak to us, and Melinda can unmute you and you can enlighten us. Very good. Okay, so our topic today, concordances and lexicons. It does sound, I must say, it does sound a little bit dry on face value. But hopefully I'm going to give you a live demonstration, and I will say with live demos there are things that can go wrong, so hopefully none of that goes wrong tonight. I do a lot of training in the workplace, and you can guarantee the minute everything works while you're practicing, and the minute you go online and you've got an audience watching thing, you click on things and they sit there whirring away. Let's hope that none of that happens tonight. So the reason why we're looking at concordances and lexicons, the reason is that the Old Testament was written in Hebrew or Chaldean. The Old Testament was written in Hebrew and Chaldean, the New Testament written in Greek. And so we see our Bibles in English, which means that at some point there will have had to have been a translation. So, someone sat down and what is that word? What is the best equivalent of that word in the English? And then that's where we sort of get to our Bibles now. Look, the translators did their best. This is no discrediting to them. What we're trying to do here is not coming from a place of like, well, I'm not sure I can trust the translators. What we're trying to do tonight is use a concordance or a lexicon to go back from English to those original root words and get a bit of a flavor, a bit of an understanding, see if we can widen what we're reading and the context of what we're reading. And hopefully that'll become more obvious as we sort of go through those particular live demos. So effectively, what we're trying to do, and again, you'll see it very shortly, using concordance. So Strong's Concordance, Strong's I think was the surname of the person that put the concordance together, which is why we call it Strong's Concordance. They've gone through and they've given each word either a Hebrew or a Greek equivalent word, what the original Hebrew or the original Greek word would have been compared to what you see in the English. So the lexicon then takes that reference, that Hebrew or Greek reference number, and then expands on what the definition actually is. So with the Strong's reference and the lexicon explaining to us what the actual definition is, what we can then do is use further concordances, and we'll see this again very shortly, where conveniently we can have a reference list of every time that Strong's word is used in the rest of the Bible, and reading through those other verses then allows us to have a better picture, a better idea, a better understanding of what it is we're reading in the current verse when compared with all those other verses. So hopefully that's a helpful explanation. For if you already know that, I'm sorry, but there are some people that have never come across either Strong's before. They're not quite sure what Strong's is. You've got a Young's Concordance there as well. There's Gesenius. There's a number of ones that we use, but Strong's is by far, I think, probably the more popular one. And so when we're referencing Strong's, all we're doing is basically saying Strong's gave each English reference a Hebrew and a Greek equivalent number. And then, as we say, the lexicons then go on and give us the definitions for those things. So really, we're just looking at reference points that then give us a definition, and then we expand it from there. So here we go. Touch wood that everything's going to be all right. So I'm just going to share my screen now, and we're going to jump across and do a live session. I'll just find the right screen to share. So I'm going to share screen one. Here we go. All right, fantastic. So what I'm using is, can you see?
Yeah, all good.
Okay,
Right.
fantastic. Thank you. So I should have checked. Well, what we've got here is I'm using Bible Hub, and I've just picked Acts chapter 18. Now, what we can see here is, actually, I might just grab this panel here and shift over here so it's out of your way and less distracting. What we can see here is we've got a range of Bibles across the top. These are the Bible versions. If you hover over them, they tell you kind of what versions they are to look at. And if you want to change your version, it's a simple matter of just clicking on any one of these here. I've got it, I think, default set to the New Living Translation. I quite like this one. I also like the New English translation as well. Very, very helpful. Obviously, King James is super helpful, as you know. It's sort of a very literal translation, almost a word for word translation. So it's a good Bible to have for that. What you might notice immediately, and I think maybe Di or maybe it was one of the other contestants last week, we're asking about maps. So Lukey does have an answer for that, which we'll have a look at later. But you can see right here, there's some references in here to Athens and Corinth, and that kind of thing. And immediately on our left-hand side, we've got some very helpful maps if we don't know where some of these places are. So we can click on that and we can see, oh, okay, well, I kind of know where Athens is in Greece. So a little bit to the left of that, there's a place called Corinth. And if I don't know much about that, let me just make this a little bit bigger. Very helpfully, the Bible Hub has given you quite a large reference material, a set of reference materials on the right hand side there, Bible references, church in Corinth, so it gives you some background on the early century church, and then it gives you your Strong's number down the bottom for an easy reference. So I find that incredibly helpful just right from the very start. The fact that the app has been good enough to recognize Bible names names in here, like geographical locations in here, and we can then reference it there. What you'll also notice in this, so that's the versions in this top. In the second one, we've got more sort of like, you can see our good old Strongs here. We can see a lexicon here. You can see the original Greek. We've got what they call an interlinear capability. We've also got some parallel capability. So I'll just click on this one here. And what the parallel does is it takes Acts 18 in verse 1 and gives it to you in a whole range of different other versions down the side there, and which ones they're sort of referencing. So if you want to have a quick look at a particular verse and all the different ways it's being translated, then that's also very helpful. You can use the back button to go back to your original, or you can just click on a translation and it'll take you back to the beginning. You've also got some study material, study Bibles and other topics and talks there. You can have it read to you if you like. They've got some visuals, so you can click on this. We've already got some maps, but they've also done some characterizations, and there's some Bible verses as well if you want to pin those or use those as reminders if you have a particular verse that you enjoy. There's some visuals there to go with that. There's also some commentary, some parallel commentaries. You can see the different the authors of those commentaries. But again, it's just verse 1. But on the right hand side here, hopefully you can see that in the webinar. There's a little arrow that moves it to the next verse. So if you want to have commentary on the next verse or the verse after, or the verse after that, then you can also do that. Also up the top here, if you wanted to select a particular chapter and then verse manually up here, that's also quite helpful. We have the interlinear. So this is where I was telling you, like the interlinear basically gives you a comparison of lots of different things. So you can see here the English, you've got the Greek, you've got the Strong's references here. And then, so I find a slightly easy way of looking at it. It's the same information, but it's in the lexicon. And it says after these things, he left Athens and went to Corinth. And we can see how Strong's reference is giving you the lexicon as well. So the definition next to each of these here. And then it gives you the origin, which is a bit more technical in terms of like the English construction, if you like. What I find helpful about this, and it's so easy just to sort of like drill down and drill down and drill down. If I click on this Greek number here for Corinth, it tells me like what that Greek, it goes into quite a bit of detail, drill down to another level. So on the left-hand side here, you can see the lexicon part here is a city in Greece. If we were looking at any other word, it would give us that word as well. But then it gives us a little bit more information underneath, a little bit of history. It gives us, if you understand Greek, then that this forms and transliterations is probably going to be helpful for you. But I think what's most helpful is this Englishman's Concordance on the right-hand side here. What that does is it gives me every reference in the Bible to the same word, the same Strong's word that is used for Corinth in Acts chapter 1. And it gives us it's so thoughtful. It even gives us a range of different translations as well of that particular word in that particular Bible reference. So they've definitely gone over and above in Bible Hub to make things so easy for us to just click through and drill down further into that. So we can see here there's where it says Corinth 6, that means it's referenced 6 times. That particular Greek word is referenced 6 times, and we can see those 6. So yep, and down here as well, 6 occurrences. Sometimes you'll see multiple different occurrences, but certainly here what we're looking at is just the 6. So hopefully that's really helpful from the point of view of understanding some of these things. Again, another tool, the TSK or the Treasury of Scriptural Knowledge. Also quite a popular and well-respected reference for Bible study. I'm pretty sure it's across a number of different Bible apps as well. But you can see here, very, very helpful in terms of like breaking down things into specific words, and then giving some further explanations around that. So that's Bible Hub. I'm just going to go very quickly through in in the Blue Letter Bible, which is another really great app. Again, it's got the Strong's references for you as well. So you can see here, we've just opened up the same verses here, same chapter and same verse. The tools here are on the left-hand side, so slightly different, but you can certainly click on here. So we've got our interlinear, which is giving us, again, very similar to the lexicon in Bible Hub, but it gives us the Strong's words. And again, if we click through onto that word, it gives us some further breakdowns, some definitions, and then underneath it also gives us all of the reference places where that took place. Again, what I do like about this version as well is that we can come into, if I come in here and I click on miscellaneous, it also recognizes that there's some geographical references in that verse, and so it gives us some maps that we can kind of click through and have a look at. And I do believe some of Paul's missionary journeys down in some of these lower level maps here. So again, a super easy Bible app to use. This is the Blue Letter Bible. And what I like about both of these versions is it's given us some Strong's references. It gives us the concordance, which explains what it is, where every time that word is used and how it's used. And what that means is I can now build a picture of this particular verse that I'm reading, or even a particular word within that verse. And then that then helps me to understand context. It helps me to understand how that might have been used elsewhere across the rest of the Bible. I'm gonna leave it there, and I'm gonna switch back. I'll stop sharing, Melinda, and then get you to rejoin. But hopefully, let's take a quick pause there and see if there is any questions or any comments. I do know that eSword is quite similar, has similar functionality. I think really when you're looking at, I will just qualify, when you're looking at Bible apps, I think someone last week sort of said, yep, they've used eSword for a while, or MySword, I think it is on the app. Look, as long as it's got like some sort of concordance where you can find a Strong's number, it's got some sort of definition of what that means, and then if it's got some maps, that's great. If it's got some other commentaries, that's fantastic as well. If you can easily change between those, as I say, for me, the main factors that influence my perceptions are the ease of just drilling down, clicking on a hyperlink, and expanding the information very easily and very readily. So open up for very quick questions, and then I'll hand over to you, Luke. Or comments, doesn't have to be a question, can be a comment.
But if you'd like to talk, please let me know in the chat and I'll turn on your talking availability.
I think, it's really, really good to have a different look at all the apps available, and whatever app you choose, I think is up to you how you can handle it and how you deal with it and how you want to run with reading the Bible. These are just tools. We just want to show you. And the reason why we want to show you that is it just makes the Bible reading easy. So if you come across a passage which you don't understand, or you want to look at the word meanings of that passage, because there is a translation from Hebrew and Greek into English, sometimes in that translation it changes the meanings. So I think it's really important that we have a look at that. Diane, speak. Welcome.
Oh, and Brock as well. Fantastic.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, Diane.
Thank you for the information, but with the first one, I'm sorry, the Bible Hub.
Bible Hub, yeah.
Do you have to kind of customize it yourself, or is it automatically set up that way? Because I would have a hard time trying to figure out, okay, I need to select Strong's, I need to select a lexicon, or is it automatically set up the way that you present it? I hope my question makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I was just using the sort of web version. You can download it. I'm not sure if you can customize it, but certainly when I look on at Bible Hub on my phone, it comes up fairly similarly. The main I would say the main thing, Diane, is if you click on Strong's, or if you click on Lexicon, it then gives you sort of like a Strong's number. So you can sort of do one or you can do the other. But if you, regardless of which one you use, whether you click on Lexicon and then drill down onto the Strong's, or you click on Strong's itself, and click down, I think you'll get the same information. I think the layout is fixed though, in terms of being able to customize it.
Okay.
So I know you're probably hoping to be able to customize it.
No.
No.
That's what I didn't want. I was making sure that it defaulted to what you
No.
were speaking
Yes.
of, that I didn't
Yes.
have to go in and try to figure out what to
Right.
put in. Okay, great.
No,
Thank
gotcha.
you.
Yes. No, that's cool. That's a great question as well. Yes, no, it automatically defaults up to that layout. So yes, so if you follow along in the catch up later on and you can click on again, I would just say click on there. You won't be able to break it. Just click on every button and see what it does, and then have a look through and find what comes up. This comes from that curiosity, that sort of I wonder what this does. You've got the luxury of not worrying about breaking it, and you might discover something brand new, which is fantastic. But yeah, no, great question. Thanks, Diane. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll move on to Luke. We do have a Q&A section at the end, so maybe we'll move on to Luke, and we'll talk about bookends.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Shane. Like I said, it's just play around with different apps and whatever you feel comfortable with. It's more about something that you can work with and be able to get use of that app to find out, some in-depth answers or meanings of words. So, which we're going to have a look at now, and we're going to steer a little bit away from apps and all that sort of stuff, online stuff, and we're going to look at Bible Echoes, which is really exciting because Bookends, sorry, not Bible Echoes, my bad, that was last week.
I was going to say, we've moved on from those.
Everyone. I'm back in week 2. My apologies. We're going to go and look at Bookends. So, what Bookends is, or as you can see on the screen there, or inclusio, it's a literary device, and it consists of the repetition of material at the beginning and end of a section of text. And the purpose is to highlight to us or to the reader an important theme or lesson. And the information within the bookends are connected to the bookend itself. And when we talk about bookends, we're referring to the idea that scripture or the Bible that's written is held together by consistent, repeated themes from beginning to end. And the Bible opens with, and you'd all know this, with creation, doesn't it? And ends with, in Revelation, a new creation. And it begins with a garden, the Garden of Eden, where Adam and Eve were, and ends with a garden city. It starts with God walking with people and ends the same way. And one of these key bookend ideas is about identity and clothing. So have a little think about that. You think about like Adam and Eve in Genesis, they were clothed with God's glory. But when they sinned, they realized they're naked, they were ashamed and exposed. And God, in all his mercy, makes garments of skin for them. And that's the first act of clothing in the Bible, God covering that shame. And then we fast forward when we're reading through the Bible to the last book, which is Revelation, and you'll read about the saints clothed in white robes, and that symbolizes purity and victory and righteousness. It's not their own, but Christ's. So from start to finish, the Bible has this theme of clothing, and it's symbolic of our inner state and relationship with God. And so I want to look at a bit of an example of this in the Bible. So if you've got an app or a Bible in front of you, feel free to turn to Colossians chapter 3. Now, Colossians is in the New Testament, and it's the 12th book of the New Testament. So we go Matthew, Mark, 1, 2, 3, 4, right through the 12th book, and it's Colossians. And we're going to have a look at Colossians chapter 3, which is up on the screen. And it lands us right in the middle of this story of clothing and identity, and some symbolic clothing in the Bible, and these bookends. And it uses the same sort of imagery used in clothing. And Paul writes to the believers in Colossae, and he says in verse 9 to 10, he's talking about putting off the old self with its practices and putting on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge after the image of its creator. And here Paul's inviting us into a very practical kind of transformation. And so this idea of putting off and putting on fits perfectly with our understanding of how we grow in Christ. And we believe that salvation is by grace, but we also believe transformation is essential. And when we talk about baptism, it's not the end, it's actually the beginning of a process of renewal, but we won't go into that too much because that's a whole other subject. But here Paul in Colossians is telling us how to change our clothes. He's not talking about our physical clothes, but our spiritual ones. So he's talking about your character. He's talking about your habits, your attitude. And so in Colossians, we have two bookends here. And I mentioned them. They're putting off of the old man. And in verse 5 and verse 8, it says, Paul says, mortify your members, put off anger, wrath or wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication. And this old man is the flesh, the natural way we think and live without God. It's selfish, it's angry, it's driven by desire. And Paul says in this chapter, he says we must actively put it to death. It's not a passive process. It's actually a daily, deliberate effort. And for us as Bible students, and we are part of the Christadelphians, it ties directly into what we understand from Romans chapter 6, that in baptism we crucify the old man and rise to walk in newness of life. But that newness doesn't happen instantly. It's shaped day by day as we make choices to resist the flesh and follow Christ. And then Paul says, put on the new man. So put on, therefore, as the elect of God in verse 12, holy and beloved bowels of mercy, kindness, humility of mind, meekness, long-suffering. And above all these things, put on love in verse 14. And this is talking about the character of Christ. It's what the kingdom will be built on. These are not just personality traits, they're actually spiritual clothing. They mark us out as those preparing to reign with Christ when he returns. And you notice in there in verse 1 to 3 too, it says Paul's motivation. He goes, you are risen with Christ. Your life is hid with Christ in God. In other words, your real identity is already tied to Christ. He's your life. So your job now is to let that hidden life come through and align your character with us. And so looking at these bookends and that passage there, we can glean a whole lot of information from Colossians chapter 3. And every day we are choosing what spiritual clothes to wear. And I suppose questions we can ask, are we wearing bitterness or forgiveness or pride or humility, or are we harsh or show mercy? Paul isn't calling us to fake it. He's calling us to be real, to live as people who genuinely believe that Christ is coming. And that when he appears, when he returns, we want to appear with him in glory. And in verse 4 in Colossians, it talks about that glory. And that's what we look forward to, the return of Christ, the resurrection, and the establishment of God's kingdom on earth. And Colossians 3 shows us how to live now in preparation for them. And so using those two bookends, and I know I've gone into a little bit more depth, and we could talk about this for ages, but that's just a bit of a little short 5-minute sermon on about how we can use bookends in our lives. And we can look at a chapter and say, well, he's talking about putting on the new, putting off the old man and then putting on the new man. And this is where we can look at, using lexicons and concordances as well. We can look at what those meanings mean. Again, I can see there on the screen that it says the image of him that created him. And so straight away I can see there, oh, that's a Bible echo that we looked at last week, wasn't it? When we looked at the image, God created us in the image of his likeness. And we talked about, didn't we, the Caesar, the image on the coin. And he said, give to Caesar unto Caesar and God unto God. So the Bible is full of these bookends, and it's fantastic, and it's a great little study or a bit of homework you can do. I wouldn't say this week because this is a lifetime of homework when you're talking about bookends, but the Bible is absolutely full of these bookends. The next slide I want to show is just a quick way to search for bookends, and using the olive tree, and this is the example that we've got here, or even just using your own app that you're using, Bible Hub. I use eSword. You can always do these in the search functions in any app. And so if you type into your search box or your search function in your app, and we would type in an exact phrase with quotation marks, new man, and you can see that on the screen that we've put in there up top, new man. And it comes to us with two passages from Ephesians and Colossians. And so you'll see that this phrase, new man, actually creates another bookend in Ephesians. And it mentioned in chapter 2, verse 15, 4, verse 24 of Ephesians. It's in there. Not that we have time to explore this now, but we understand it is the purpose is to highlight to the reader is an important theme or lesson focused on the new man, and that the information within the bookends of Ephesians and the rest of the chapter and all of chapter 3 and most of chapter 4 is connected to the bookend itself of the new man. So I think it's a really, really good exercise that you can do to check it out yourselves this week, and please post any questions on the chat, or if you want to ask questions, feel free. But yeah, I think if you can utilize your apps to search for these little bookends or echoes and say, oh, you know what, like that's a little phrase that I picked up on while doing the daily readings this week. Let's have a look at that. Let's explore it. Let's put it into the search of my app and go, oh, what does that mean? Where else is that in the Bible? I did a classic, just a simple little exercise last weekend, and I just put a random word, very random. I just put egg in the Bible. And I said, oh, what? Just out of interest, like just my mind just go, how many times is egg in the Bible? And it's actually mentioned twice. So that's how you can use apps. You can just be sitting there and a little random thought will come in your head and you go, oh, I wonder if the name Luke is mentioned in the Bible. Or, oh, what about, angels in the Bible? Angels is massive, so you'll get a massive search, and so is Luke. But if you can narrow it down, like there's, I think there's lions in the Bible. Let's just search and have a look at lions and see where those passages come up. And then you can start filtering through and looking at where the Bible talks about lions. It might be Daniel in the lion's den. It might be the pride of a lion, or some other place that talks about lions where, Samson killed a lion and, with his bare hands. So you can get these little echoes, you can get these bookends that will really help you read the Bible and let you understand it a little bit more. So I'm going to set, I don't know why it's my job every week to just set challenge. I'm like a harsh school teacher or something like that. Before we do that, has anyone got any questions or about what we've chatted about with Bookends? That's all right. We're going to open up for questions anyway. But so on the screen there, homework challenge. Everyone loves a bit of homework. So as Shane went through using concordances and lexicons and Bible apps and doing that search function and having a little bit of a deeper delve, let's try and use our concordance to help search, for Bible bookends this week. And also looking at, using your lexicon to look up meanings of words, so your Strong's concordance, and things like that. Even a dictionary is very helpful. Sometimes you don't know the meaning of a word and you're like, well, just Google that and it comes up with Webster's dictionary, just to make it easy to understand. So, yeah, if there's any questions, I'll hand it back to you, Melinda.
Thank you, Luke. That was really interesting. And as you mentioned, I think it really works in with what we talked about last week, which was our Bible Echo.
Yes. Yep.
I actually found a Bible Echo this week. I was reading, as I said earlier, I was reading about Jesus, and he was in the temple, and his mother and Joseph, his father on earth, were looking for him, and he was learning about God, and that took me to a Bible Echo in the Old Testament talking about Samuel doing the same thing. So it was a Bible Echo in my mind. So it was really interesting to have that little comparison, and I did a bit more study on that as well. So yeah, they're coming up all the time as you read the Bible. But we'll talk about next week. So we're up to week 4, believe it or not, out of 5.
Wow.
We're going to look at so we're going to talk about, reading the Bible with comfort. So that will be talking about how we can actually, I suppose, feel comforted when we read the Bible, which is an amazing thing, really. In this day and age, to feel comforted doing anything is hard. But topic 1, so we'll be looking at other versions. So Shane did touch on that a little bit tonight in the Bible Hub app. And that's really interesting, because if you're not quite sure what one version's talking about, you can flick to another version and it will give you some sort of idea. And then we're looking at questions, so how to sort of question what you're reading in the Bible. So that'll be really interesting as well. So really looking forward to that. But in relation to questions, if anyone's got any questions right now, I'm happy to open up the chat. Again, if you want to talk, or you can type in your question.
Or comments.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be a question. Any comments, anything you found yourself?
That's right. And, if you're leaving us now, we really appreciate you coming, but happy to have a yarn with you about anything that you've heard tonight.
And also, while we're waiting for some questions or comments, I'm just adding to what Luke's been saying in his sort of sections. One thing that never ceases to amaze me about the Bible is just how interconnected it is from beginning to end. How you see common themes or echoes, how you see, common ideas or reinforcements of ideas at the beginning of a chapter and end of a chapter, or, at the beginning of a book and the end of a book. And I just to me, it just confirms how unique and how amazing the Bible is, and how obviously there's a divine and a higher power that's kind of like written all of this and brought it to us.
Yeah, we had a study weekend with our church just last weekend, and it was on angels. And amazing how many times angels come up in the Bible. And if you were to colour in every time you see the word angel or a mention of angel, it's just all through the Bible. Just little things like that. It's fantastic to have a look at, and really positive and uplifting things to look at.
Yeah. Okay. It doesn't look like anyone's got any questions. So we would be really pleased to see you come back next week to learn about session 4. And thank you very much for your time this week, and we'll see you then.
Thanks everyone for coming. Appreciate it.
Everyone.
Thank
Have a
Bye.
good week.
See you later, Brock.
Yeah, Brock. Go to bed.
Go to bed.
Too old for that.
See you, Brock. We're having a debrief.
All right, this is still recording, so we might want to jump off and have a debrief after.
Yeah. Okay.
One jump straight back on.
Okay.
Yeah.
No worries. Thank you. See ya.
Cheers. Bye.